Hey, this is Overpass Insights. My name is Eric and I make apps. Now today I want to talk about the importance of a dedicated software tester. So at any given time, we can have several software projects on the go. We have some that are in the design phase where we're still doing the specifications and the design mock-ups and working with the client saying, what should this software do? We have some that have moved on to the development phase so that we're going through the sprints and actually producing the code and producing the application. And we have some that are in the testing phase. So we're either doing internal testing or user acceptance testing with the client, right? And I do not code on all the applications myself. I code on some of them. If we're short somebody, I will jump in there, but I will look at the code on all of them just to make sure everything's kept up and everything like that. But I spent a lot of my time in meetings with clients or meetings with developers. And in the meetings with developers, a lot of what we talk about is testing, right? Testing, testing, testing. Is this tested? Please tell me this is tested. I don't want to look at it if it's not tested. And of course the answer is always, yes, I've tested it. And you get it and you test it. And a lot of times within a couple minutes, you could find a bug, right? And it's just, oh, it gets me. Right? But we all know what this is like. If you're a software developer, you know what it's like. You've been working on something for months. You could have been working on a project for months, weeks or months or whatever. You show it to a client and then the first thing they do is click on something that maybe you didn't test as well as you should, but you don't think nobody's ever using that, and it's very difficult. So as much as I give the developers a hard time about the lack of testing, I don't expect them to be able to find every single bug. Bugs happen, they go through, but that's why we need to have another stage, which is a QA tester. Now, first of all, in software development, we have tests. We have all kinds of different tests. We have unit tests and integration tests and system tests and user acceptance tests and stress tests and all kinds of different tests. And they usually fall into two different camps. You've got the kind that you can automate, so automated testing like unit testing and integration testing, stuff that you could just run. Every time you compile it, you can run the test, make sure that something you changed didn't break something that was working before. Automated tests are fantastic when you do them, but to be honest with you, I don't know very many people who do automated tests. I mean, the real hardcore developers do, like the real like, proper developers do, but a lot of times they get left out, right, which is fine. So you have to rely a lot on manual testing. And this is where the QA tester comes in. The QA tester is like the unsung hero of what we do. And it's difficult with QA tester because they're not necessary to the development process, right? You need the designer, you need the developer, you need the client, right? But you don't need the QA tester. But without them, things get much more difficult when you're trying to produce quality software, right? So a developer will test an application and they'll go in and say, okay, I'm going to use this like a normal user. I'm going to fill in this form. I'm going to click on submit. I'm going to go to this page. I'm going to take a picture, whatever, right? The client will do the same. They'll start using it like a normal tester. So they'll start testing it before they release it to the public. The QA tester has to test everything on loads of different platforms. So my advice to the QA tester is always, okay, the first pass through, I want you to use it like a normal user, fill in the form, click submit, take a picture, do whatever. But on the next pass through, I want you to use it like a crazy person, right? Rather than fill in the form and put in what you would normally do on this form, I want you to go in and put, like, on this field, I want you to put 10 million characters, right? Or copy some text in, see if you could flood that in. When you hit the submit button, don't hit it once, hit it like 10 times really fast so you can get multiple submissions to the database. What happens when you get an inbound phone call? How does that affect it? What happens if you take a picture that's 12 megapixels? Does that get uploaded to the server? How long does it take? What happens when you go into airplane mode? Does everything function, like turn off Wi-Fi, leave Wi-Fi on, but unplug the router, that kind of stuff. So you have a connection, but you don't have internet. How does it fail gracefully? All this kind of stuff. So a QA tester needs to look at all these types of things and use it in anger. Like, how can I actually break this software? And they have to repeat the process every single time, much like an automated test. So we have a spreadsheet where we go through, okay, for every release, go through and do that again. And you know what? It sucks being a tester, right? So when I was a junior software developer, one of the first jobs they gave me was like it was in an investment bank. It was like an appraisal system. I said, Eric, you're going to test this software. So I would go through and test this software, and every time I found a bug, the developers hated me, right? Because they were like, dude, nobody's ever going to do that. What's the likelihood that somebody's going to go do that, right? And every time I didn't find a bug, the clients hated me, or the users hated me. So how did this get through? How did you not find this, right? And it's really tough, but that's what a QA tester does. A QA tester has to go in, and if we find a bug, like let's say I want to know what it's like if we run out of battery on the phone in the middle of filling out data. What happens? Do we lose the data? Which is fine, that's what I would expect, but just so we know this kind of stuff, right? And there's only so much you could test, right? On iOS, I find it easier because we only have a few different OSs to test on, but you can test on we got the iPad Pro, the iPad, iPhone 5, the different screen sizes, but it's easier to test on that than it is on Android. But so there's only so much you can do, but if you're doing something for client, you need to have that QA tester in place. You need to be testing, and it is tedious and boring, and that's why I don't do it anymore. But it is. So we have, it's a really good skill. Now, if you're an indie developer, obviously you can't do that, but automated testing is something you should look into, using stuff like, Jasmine and Karma is something we use on the hybrid stuff, but it's something to look into. So anyway, I love having a good QA tester, right? My whole thing is, I don't want to see I don't want to see a build until it's been tested. I shouldn't be finding bugs by the time it gets to me. It goes through the developers testing it, it goes through the development company's QA testing, it goes through our own QA testing. By the time it gets to me, there shouldn't be any bugs. When it goes to the users, if they find anything, it should be more of a usability issue, like, oh, this is kind of confusing, or something happened in the design, or we missed something. So anyway, let me know what you guys think. How many of you guys use, here's a good question, how many of you guys use automated testing, like in your code? Because like I said, I've worked in a lot of places, big corporate environments, and while we all talk about how we use automated testing, there's only been a few times in my career where I've seen it really used properly, like with total code coverage, and it was really cool, right? But a lot of the time, we don't use it. But how many of you guys are using automated testing, and how many of you aren't? And anyway, that is it for today. I'll talk to you guys again next time.